when I say demon, I don't necessarily, it's probably not the demons that you guys are thinking of or that you've seen in the cartoons. Like they said that Ravana was the most handsome being who was living on Earth. And they said he had 10 heads, but that each head was magnificent and his body was gorgeous. And they said that he had a harem of hundreds of women in Lanka where he lived. But he said that none of them were forced to be there. All of them were there by choice because he was such an amazing lover. But that's like the type of guy that he was.
It's a very interesting feminism point of view you have.
Yeah. But so anyway, the story starts when Ravana is sitting in a tapasya, he's sitting in a penance, and he sits for 10,000 years, because back then you could live like tens of thousands of years. And Ravana sat in the tapasya, and at the end of every 1,000 years, he cut off one of his heads and he threw it into the fire. And he was doing a prayer to Brahma. And at the end of the 10,000 years, right when Ravana was about to cut off the last head, and he would have done it, he would have killed himself, Brahma came and appeared to him, and Brahma said, your tapasya is so amazing, it's so beautiful, like your penance, your devotion, so anything that you want, I will give you. So what do you want? They called it a boon. He was like, I'll give you any boon you want. And Ravana said, I want to not be able to be killed by any god, any Gandharva, any demon, anything. And he left out humans and animals because he figured humans and animals are too puny and they wouldn't be able to kill him anyway. So it was a little bit of arrogance, but there's also a twist to that, and I'll explain that later. So that boon is granted. Brahma can't say no. If someone does that type of penance with that kind of devotion, he had to just say yes. And then Ravana was basically invincible. So him and his demon army from that point on, they raided all of the lands on Earth, and he went to the upper realms, they call them like the celestial realms, and then the world of like the serpents, the nagas, even the underworld. And he went everywhere, and he defeated every enemy and truly became the king of the universe. And he was immune even to Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva. They couldn't kill him because of the boon that he asked for. So all of the gods were very upset because for thousands of years, Ravana is stealing their women, stealing their food. He's humiliating them in front of everyone else. And eventually Indra and all of the other gods, they go up to Vishnu and they say, Vishnu, we need help. Like, Ravana is invincible to us. We can't kill him. We don't know anyone who can kill him. So can you do us a favor? And Vishnu said, okay, I'm going to come down to Earth as a human being. And as a human being, I'm going to defeat Ravana. And that's kind of how the stage is set for this whole epic. And then, on Earth, you have King Dasaratha. And he had 3 wives, Kausalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. Kaikeyi was the 3rd wife, and she was known to be the most loved out of them. And Dasaratha was praying for his son, or for sons and for children, but he couldn't have any. And eventually he went to the rishis, the Brahmins, and he was like, I really need to have children, so tell me what to do. And they performed this huge, elaborate sacrifice. And during the sacrifice, when the holy fire was burning, like Agni, the fire god, he came out of the fire, and he was carrying like Vishnu's seed in a bowl. And King Dasaratha took that, and he gave half of it to Kausalya. He gave half of what was left to Kaikeyi, and he split the last of what was remaining to Sumitra. And from there, he had 4 sons, Ram, Bharat, Lakshman, and Shatrughna. And this was the most amazing kingdom that you could have imagined. They were from the house of Ishkavu, and this was the house of the sun. So basically, there's 4 yugas in Hinduism. And the first yuga, they say the bull of Dharma stands on 4 legs. So in that yuga, like if your dad asks you to do something, it's because that is the best thing for you and the family and the earth. And there's no other possibility. Like everything is dharmic, everything is in line and in order. And that lasts like, I don't know exactly the amount of time, but that's the longest one. The next yuga was the time period when Ram was alive. And during that yuga, they say the bull of Dharma is on 3 legs. So that would mean that some evil was entering the world, but it was still pretty clear between good and evil. So what happened during the second yuga was that that's when kings and princes started to come. Because kings and princes, they started to exist, or you could even think like leaders of companies or CEOs. They basically existed because they were supposed to show people how to live a dharmic life, and then the people would learn from their kings how they were supposed to live. And then the third yuga is when the bull of Dharma is only on 2 legs, and that was maybe when Krishna and Christ were here. And then they say that we're in the Kali Yuga now, where there's a lot of trouble in the world. And good and evil are hard to discern. You have groups of people who say that like, this is good or this is good, and they're completely off base, and it's very hard to know the truth. And that's where they say we are now. But they do say that we're coming to the end of that, and that soon we're going to go back to that first yuga when everything is back in order again. So these princes grew up during that time period, and they were beloved by everyone. And they were so amazing. They were so handsome, so beautiful. They were amazing archers. They all were devoutly religious. They could memorize the Vedas. They knew all of the mantras. They knew all of the ceremonies. And more than anything, they lived dharmically. So they were the perfect sons. Anything that their mom or their dad asked them to do, they would do it no matter what. And starting from Ram and going down, it's like, back then they believed that your older brother was like your father. So your oldest brother, anything that he told you to do, you would do it. But it was also a time period of dharma, when the older brother would never even think of asking you to do something that wasn't the best thing for you. So it's a different time, and it's important to keep that context. But they grew up, it was amazing. King Dasarath was so happy, the kingdom was so happy, everyone was so excited to have Rama as their next king, because they knew that's where it was headed. And these princes, they seemed invincible. And they were so good that even the rishis and the Brahmins, they started to suspect that these boys were incarnations of Vishnu himself. However, the boys didn't know that. And again, that brings up a very interesting metaphor that that didn't occur to me before. But it's just that, in a way, all of us are the divine incarnated into human bodies. And the same way, like Ram and his brothers didn't know, it's like we don't know. And the whole journey for Ram was like realizing who he really is. And it's the same with us, and learning like we have that dharma, we have that kindness at the core of who we are. And the easiest thing to do in life is actually to listen to that inner voice. So these princes grow up, and this really ancient rishi, Vishwamitra, he shows up to Ayodhya, and he tells King Dasarath, I have a problem, there's demons, and they're in the jungle, and they're destroying all my sacrifices, so I need to take Rama with me. I need Rama to kill these demons, because Vishwamitra knew who he was. But Rama was only like 16 years old at the time. So King Dasarath's like, no, anything. But again, as a king, his dharma was to respect the priests. So he had to send Rama. And this is when Rama like really begins his journey of starting to see the power that he has. So he goes out into the jungle when he's 16, and he starts killing these demons for Vishwamitra. And when he's done with that, Vishwamitra teaches him a lot. Like Rama learns all of these astras, he learns these ancient prayers. Back then they used to fight with like real magic. Like they would say a mantra and they would shoot a bow, and you would see 100 snakes coming at you, because that's really how it was. And so Rama was with Vishwamitra, and then Vishwamitra brought Rama to the city of, how do you say it? Mathila?
Mathura.
Huh?
Mathura.
Yeah, where Sita was from. And there was a bow. They said that Shiva left his bow there, and basically Janaki, Sita's father, said that the only one who would be worthy of Sita is the one who's able to break that bow that Shiva gave, and to string it and to shoot an arrow. And the thing about Sita that's so special, and she was really a child of the earth. Like, they say that they don't know who her mother was. She wasn't from Janaki and his wife. King Janaki, he found her lying in the earth, and she was the most beautiful being he had ever seen in his life. And, you know, they say that Sita was an incarnation of Lakshmi herself. And by the end of the story, they say that Sita even proved herself superior to Ram. But anyway, so Sita's there. She's the most beautiful. Rama comes by. He strings the bow. He breaks it. Sita's amazed. Rama's amazed. And Sita has 3 sisters. And those 3 sisters, they go and they marry Ram's 3 brothers. So again, it's like this perfect situation. It couldn't get any better. It's so amazing. And they all go back to Ayodhya, and they're living very peacefully until King Dasarat starts having dreams that he's going to die soon, and he starts getting very scared. And during this time, Bharat and Shatrughna were visiting Kaike's father, who was ill in his kingdom. So it was just Rama, Lakshman, their wives, and the king who was home. And King Dasarat, he woke up from a dream and he said, I need to crown Rama, like, next in line to the throne. They called it, like, Yuva Raja, like, immediately, because I think I'm going to die soon, and I need to have the next thing in place. And he goes and consults his council, and they're like, of course, like, Rama is the perfect king. Of course we want Rama. Everyone loved Rama more than anything else, more than their lives. So everyone starts to hear the news. Everyone gets really excited. They're celebrating. Rama's happy. He tells Sita. It's a big celebration is taking place. And while all that's going on, even Keike, because the thing is, the 3 mothers, they really raised the boys all the same. Like, they say that Keike loved Ram like he was her favorite. Like, she loved him more than her own son. And it was the same with all the mothers. Like, they were so close. So Keike, she heard the news and she was very excited for Rama too. And then her maid, who she had since she was a kid, Mantra goes into Keike's chambers, and she sees Keiki very excited, very happy. And Mantra says, you're so stupid. What is wrong with you? Why are you so happy? He's like, Rama's going to be the king. I've been waiting for this day my whole life. Everyone has. And Mantra says, don't you understand why this is happening? She was like, think about it. Your son is gone. Why is the king doing this when your son isn't here? It's because he knows that Bharat wouldn't agree. So he's going to make Rama the king, and then Rama's not going to want any threats. So Rama is going to send Bharat away, and Bharat's going to be gone, and you're going to be gone. And she planted this really poisonous story into Keiki. And it consumed Keiki's mind, and she couldn't handle it. So she starts crying, and she's losing it. And she's like, what do I do, Mantra? And Mantra reminds her that when Dasarat first married Keiki, they were fighting in a really crazy war. And Keike ended up saving Dasarat's life. So Dasarat said, I love you so much. You saved my life. I'll give you 2 boons. I'll give you whatever you want. And that was a long time ago, so Keike forgot. And Mantra then reminded Keiki about those boons and was like, you need to use those 2 boons. 1, send Rama away to the jungle, and with the 2nd, make Bharat the king. So Keike gets that plan. And King Dasarat, like he would do every night, he would go and visit Keiki's chambers. And he went this time and he saw her crying, and he was so confused. He was like, you love Rama like your own son. What is going on? Why are you so upset? And she was so manipulative. She wouldn't explain to him what was wrong, because she had special instructions not to say anything until he promised to do anything. So she waited. He's like, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. Why are you so upset? You're not telling me. And finally he said, I'll do whatever you ask. Just please, like, let me end this for you. I can't see you in this agony. And she says, fine, you owe me these 2 boons. With 1, I want Rama to go to the jungle. And with the 2nd, I want Bharat to be king. And Dasarat at this moment, he's heartbroken. This is actually the beginning of his death. And he's so heartbroken, he says, no, I will do anything except for that. I am not doing that. Like, Like, ask me for anything else. And she's not. And eventually Dasharatha turns on her. He says, you wicked woman, you've been plotting this the whole time. Like, he starts to really, really lose it and to think ill of her. But he doesn't have a choice, because their house, the house of Ishkavu, they were the house of Dharma. Like, they were really in charge of maintaining Dharma in the whole earth. And a lot of Dharma is just integrity, which means you just, if you say you're going to do something, you do it. No loopholes, no questions, no nothing. It's very, very simple. So, eventually, King Dasharatha has to tell Rama the news. And he calls Rama into Keki's chambers. Rama goes in, and King Dasharatha is there, and he can't even speak. He can't even get the words out. That's how upset he is. He's completely heartbroken. And Rama's like, Father, like, what can I do? How can I help you? And Keki gets frustrated. She's like, you know, your father, he can't even tell you because he loves you so much, and he hates my son so much, but he's sending you to the jungle for 14 years at my request, but it's going to be king. And Rama hears this, and immediately he says, Keki, he says, you know that I love you like my own mother. Like, you didn't even have to use your boons. If you just asked me to go to the jungle, I would have done it anyway. Because that's just the type of guy that he was. It wasn't like anything about it. It's like, no, if your parent, if your mom asks you to do something, you just do it, and you trust in God, and you have faith. And that was his mindset. So he went to his father, and his father told him, he was like, Rama, don't listen to her. Just kill me and become the king, or kill her and just become the king. Just do that. That's better than you leaving for 14 years. And Rama said, no, I can't do that. And everyone was telling Rama, Lakshman, even the rishis, the Brahmins, they were like, Rama, don't do this. Just kill her or kill the king and just take over. Like, please. Everyone was begging him to do it. And Rama was like, no, like, if both of my parents are asking me to do this, then this must be Dharma. And he said, you know, there's always forces in our life that are bigger than we can understand. And there's always agreements, and there's things that we can't understand that are at work. And we just have to trust in life and what life is showing us and what life is teaching us. So Rama then goes to Sita, and he says, Sita, change of plans. You're not going to be queen. Says, I'm getting sent to the jungle for 14 years. He's like, look, you'll live a good life. Budit will take care of you. I know he's going to be a good king, so just relax, but don't mention my name because he may get jealous and all of that. And Sita, he starts telling her this, and Sita starts crying her eyes out. And she says, what did I do to make you think that I'm such a terrible wife that I'm going to let you go into the jungle alone? She said, as far as I'm concerned, the fate of a husband is also the fate of a wife's. Like, you can't separate the two. We go together. She's like, that's how I grew up, so I don't care what you say. Like, I'm going with you to the jungle. And Rama says, good, like, you're the woman that I thought you were. And it's a really, really beautiful moment. And then Lakshman comes in, he like runs through the door, he's like, Ram, I want to come too. And Ram's like, don't worry, I already included you, I knew you would come with me. And that's it. And they set off to the jungle, and they had to live as rishis in the jungle, so they had to wear the valkala, which, what is it? It's deerskin. And they had to mat their hair with honey, and it was like Shiva has it, like all knotty and curly and disgusting. And they had to do that. So they're in the jungle, and they're getting settled, and so many times Rama got invited by the ancient rishis, he got invited to stay in beautiful places with everything he could ever dream, and he said no. Even though no one would know, no one would find out, he said, no, my parents asked me to do it this way, I have to go do it this way. And so they go and they spend some time in the jungle. Meanwhile, Budit gets back to Ayodhya, and he finds out that he's going to be king. And he's really shocked, and he's really, really upset. He hears about what his mother did, and he goes to his mother. He says, you wicked woman, like what is wrong with you? You loved Rama more than me. How could you do this? And he's ready to kill her, and he really, really wants to kill her because of what she did. But he thinks of Rama, and he says, you are so lucky that the one who you exiled is also the one who's saving your life. because if Ram knows that I killed you, he would be really upset with me, and I can't have Ram upset with me. And that was the type of integrity that Ram had. So anyway, Bharat refuses to be king. He takes everything that's needed for Ram's coronation, and he goes and he follows to try to find Ram in the jungle. And they go and they go and they go. And finally they get to Ram. And when they get there, Bharat says, Ram, I'm so sorry. Like, please forgive me, forgive my mom of this sin, and come home and be the king. And again, Rama then brings something up, which is in the Ramayana, it does this again and again and again. And Ram says, Bharat, you don't know this, but our father told me this once. When he married Keiki, he told Keiki's father that one day her son would sit on the throne. So he was like, I know that you don't understand that, but I understand that. So even though you're right, like, I'm the oldest brother, I should be the king. Like, this is the way of Dharma. This is the way that it has to be. And he brings up again, like, how time is so interesting and fate always plays out. And we don't know what's playing out at a certain time in our life. Like, we don't know why things are happening when they're happening. But it's having that trust that they're probably, in my experience in my life, there's always a reason why. And if we don't know, then we ask, like, what is this trying to teach? And that's exactly what Ram did. He said, Bharat, don't be mad at your mother, please. He said, because your mother, you know that she did love me like that. And there are forces at play beyond her control. And he said, Bharat, never forget that God uses the strongest among us to do the most difficult deeds. So he said, for some reason, I had to go to the jungle for this amount of time. And Keiki was actually the one who was strong enough to have all of this hatred against her and still do the right thing. So, Bharat, being the amazing guy that he was as well, he says, well, I will go back, but I'm not going to be the king. He said, give me your shoes. He took Ram's shoes, and he put those shoes on the throne. And during those 14 years, Bharat also lived, wearing the Valkala with his hair in jata. And during that whole time, he would just go and pray to Rama's shoes every day, and he would think, like, what would Ram do? And that's how he ruled the kingdom. And during the time, the 14 years was like, it's pretty good for Ayodhya. They just missed Ram a lot.
Okay, so what's the order of the brothers?
Ram, Bharat, Lakshman, Shatrughna.
Okay.
Yeah. But, so then at this point, everything's settled back in Ayodhya, and Ram and Lakshman and Sita, they need to they keep needing to go further and further into the jungle, because people from Ayodhya keep trying to find them and live with them and all of it, and Ram's like, no, we need to go far away to really fulfill this mission and this dharma. So they go further and further into the jungle, and it's the most beautiful places. And even the stories of Sita when they're in the jungle are my favorite, because they talk about Sita really being connected to the earth and connected to all of nature, and especially the animals. So Sita would go and she would talk to the deers and talk to the birds, and it's very interesting because Rama and Lakshman were like the seeds of Vishnu, but when they would cross the river, Sita would pray to the river out loud. She'd say, oh, river, like, thank you for being you, thank you for whatever, like, please bless us on our journey. And she was kind of like the high priestess of Ram and Lakshman, which is very interesting. And there's a lot of stories during that time period that they're in the jungle. But I just want to point out that it was not easy. There were several times where Ram, like, for being the guy that he was, there were times where he would break down crying. How could this happen to me? What is going on? Like, I don't understand. My own mother who loved me. And Lakshman would have to calm Ram down. And then there were times where Lakshman would lose it. He'd say, I'm going to kill that woman. I don't understand. And, you know, Ram would have to calm Lakshman down. And it's just to say, like, yes, these are gods incarnated, but they're human beings. And it's that understanding that as human beings, like, we all have to suffer and we all have to go through different types of experiences. And even Ram, even Lakshman, they suffered and they didn't understand why it was happening, but it was just coming back to the Dharma, coming back to that faith and that understanding that there must be a reason for why this is happening, and it must be teaching me something that I need. So they always maintained that faith, and that's what got them through that period. And they spent 13 amazing years in the jungle. It was really, really great. They went all around, and a lot of the rishis would ask Rama and Lakshman to clear the jungle of any demons, because back then all the demons, they loved living in the jungles. And Rama and Lakshman, they cleared like all of the northwest, all of the northeast, they got like all the west coast, they got everywhere. And finally they found a place to settle down. And this really high rishi, Agastya, he asked them, will you please like clear the jungle of the rest of the demons, because we need to be free of them. They're disrupting, they're too powerful, all of this. And Ram and Lakshman, it's not like they liked killing the demons, it's that they were princes, and as a prince, your duty was to serve the people, your duty was to serve the Brahmins. So they knew that their dharma was to serve, so when they were asked to do something, they said, sure, we're going to take care of that for you. So they moved to this beautiful little house to spend, the last year or so of their exile. And all is going really well. It's all really great. And one day, Ravana's sister's wandering through the jungle, and she sees Lakshman and she falls in love. She says, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Like, I want you to be my husband. And Lakshman cuts off her nose and her ears. And, yeah, he was basically just said no.
She was a demon, though.
She was a demon, but she was disguised as a really, really beautiful woman. But Lakshman knew when she came up to him. Yeah, he could see right through her. So he cut her off. He's like, get away from me. And she runs back crying to her cousin, who was the king of the demons in the jungle. And they send an army of like 10,000 demons. And Rama's basically like, Lakshman, go take Sita back home. Like, I'm going to take care of this. It won't be long. And they go back, and Rama's there. And he moved, like, back then, things would happen at the speed of thought. Like, we don't really think about that. And I think we all understand that our thoughts are really powerful and that they matter. But back then, they could control it. Like, they could really control their thinking and get focused so that when things happened, it would happen at the speed of thought. And the more in tune you were, the more you could do it. So Ram would fly around like faster than the speed of light. And it was like watching an unearthly thing. And anyway, so Rama killed all of them, and word got back to Ravana in Lanka. Like, there's this human prince in the jungle, and he just killed like 10,000 of your team. And they said, but that's not all. There's a woman who's with him, who is the most beautiful woman that I've ever seen on the earth. And they said that to Ravana because Ravana was such a playboy that they knew that hearing that 10,000 of his people were dead wouldn't maybe get him to go to war. But if he heard about a woman who he couldn't have, he needed that. So he heard about Sita. He says, all right, I need a plan to capture Sita. He said, but this Ram guy seems really powerful, so I need to figure something out. So he recruits his uncle, Maricha. And Maricha they were masters of Maya. They were masters of this world, of all of the atoms, of everything, so they could transform at will. So
Maya means illusion.
Mm-hmm. It's everything. It's what we're in right now. And Maricha turned into a golden deer at Ravana's request, and it was the most beautiful golden deer you could imagine. Again, everything about this story is like, imagine it the best you can, and then times it by 10. Because that's like what things were like back then. And this deer is running through, and it's making beautiful noises, and it's looking at Sita, and Sita says, oh my goodness, like, Rama, that deer's so beautiful. And Rama's like, yeah, do you want the deer? She's like, I would love that deer. Could you get that deer for me? Rama's like, sure, like, I just killed 10,000 demons. How hard could a deer be? So he starts running after the deer, but he starts realizing something is up. Because he's running after the deer, and every time he gets close, he gets like here, and then the deer disappears and it goes over there. And Rama's like, oh shit, like, I'm in trouble, but thank God Lakshman is with Sita, and Lakshman was just as powerful as Ram, so he's like, nothing can happen to her. And then when they get really far, like 20 minutes of running away, Maricha calls out in Ram's voice, and he says, Lakshman, Sita, help me. And Sita and Lakshman hear. And Lakshman knows. He's very smart. He's like, there's no way, like, something happened to Ram. This is BS. But Sita loved Ram so much, he's very worried. He's like, Lakshman, please, like, go after Ram right now. He's like, no, he told me to stay with you. I'm not going. And Sita says, if you don't go after Ram right now, I'm telling him that you made a move on me. And Lakshman, that's the worst thing that... Lakshman's like, how could you do that to me? You know I would never. She's like, well, you better go. So he says, fine. So he draws a circle of blue fire. Do you want to tell this part?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Then
That's very good. That's very good. That's very good. So as Savan said, Ravana during this time shows up to Sita disguised as a priest. And, you know, if you see a priest show up at your house, you have to welcome them in. And Sita, she was intuitive as well, but she was so worried about Rama that she kind of like wasn't really in it. She wasn't really thinking about it. So she says, yeah, come in. And, you know, Ravana, he's kind of like toying with her. And he's like, have you heard about the Demon King? Are you worried about him? And Sita's like, no, because Rama could kill him any day. And then Ravana like starts to show her who he is. And he grabs her and he takes her away in his chariot and they fly to Lanka. And the problem was, no one knew where Lanka was. So Ravana takes Sita to Lanka, but his whole plan and what his ministers told him is that if you take this woman, if she's really that beautiful, if you take her away from Rama, Rama's going to be so distraught and upset that he's going to be able to kill himself when he can't find Sita, he'll want to kill himself. So that was the plan. So Ravana made sure like not to leave any trace. He took her. He even tried to scare like the trees and the animals, like, don't you dare say anything to Rama because I need him to not know where she is. And there's this epic battle with this eagle named Jatayu, and basically some of Sita's stuff gets free. She has like a bracelet that gets free, and the eagle ends up dying and on the ground. And anyway, Rama and Lakshman, they get back to the house. They see that Sita's missing. And they knew, on their way back home, they knew that something was up. They knew that Sita was probably gone, and their hearts just dropped completely. So Rama really is that upset. Like, he could not live without Sita. Like, that was his life. Like, they were together, and Sita really couldn't live without Rama. So Rama was really distraught, and they searched, and they searched for days, and thank God for that battle with Jatayu, because Rama found him. And he said, yeah, Ravana took Sita back to Lanka. I don't know where that is, but you have to go and you have to try to find it. And that began this epic quest of the journey now to find Sita for this last year of the exile. So Rama and Lakshman, they're searching, they're really having no luck. It's extremely difficult. And the places that they're going in, the jungle is just not safe. But they get to this mountain, and on this mountain, this Brahmin priest comes up to them. And this Brahmin priest, he says, oh, look at you two, like you fine young travelers. You guys look really amazing. And he was very well spoken, the priest, and immediately he kind of could tell that these guys were like God. So he transformed, and that was Hanuman. And Hanuman was disguised as a priest, but really he was a Vanara. He was a monkey warrior with a monkey head and a human body, and just a really magnificent being. They described him as like curly-haired and golden-hued. So Hanuman takes Ram and Lakshman to meet Sugriva, and Sugriva was the brother of the king of the monkeys. And basically this long thing happens, but Ram and this monkey, they swear friendship. So in return of the friendship, Rama is going to help Sugriva get his kingdom back, and then Sugriva is going to help Rama find Sita. And that's the agreement. Rama goes. He helps Sugriva take his kingdom back. He helps him call all the monkey people. And Rama and Lakshman, basically they give Sugriva some time with his kingdom, with his people, and they say, okay, we're going to go to the mountains for a month because they can't enter the kingdom. They can't be in the city. And they're like, please, like, assemble all of the monkeys in the world. So Sugriva assembles all of this type of being from the four corners of the earth, and they all come back to India. And when they get there, the search for Sita really begins. So Sugriva sends out his monkey army in the 4 directions, and like Hanuman was just so impressive this entire time. There's so many stories where what Hanuman really represents is he represents the monkey mind that we have that's turned towards God. Because we do have those monkey minds, we're evolved from primates, but Hanuman shows like what's possible when you're able to still that mind and you're able to still those thoughts on just God. And for Hanuman, that was just Ram, 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 Ram. And because of that, because he was able to do that, Hanuman always lived the Dharma, and Hanuman was always the voice of reason and the voice of wisdom.
Is Hanuman a god?
Yeah.
Yes.
Another
God.
part of the story is that Hanuman, you're bringing up a story within a story, but technically Shiva is telling the story of the Ramayana to Parvati. And when Shiva gets to the part where Sita gets abducted, Shiva says, you know what, like I'm kind of worried about Ram, so I'm gonna go. I had to live a life as a monkey anyway, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take a life as a monkey, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna help Ram on his journey.
Wait, who is that?
You're not gonna understand. But-
Shiva, Lord Shiva.
But yeah, so Hanuman was Shiva as well, and Ram gives Hanuman his ring. And he says, Hanuman, I know that you're gonna find Sita out of all of the other monkeys. And there's like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them. But he just knows, Hanuman, you're gonna find her. So he gives her the ring, and the monkeys go off. And you know, the guys who went west, they don't find her. The guys who went east, they don't find her. They gave him a deadline of a month. The guys who went north, they don't find her. And the army who went south, which included Hanuman, they didn't come back within the month because they were still searching. And Hanuman loved Ram so much, he was like, if I don't find Sita, I'd rather kill myself than go back. So eventually, it's this really epic journey. They go through these caves. They have a lot of help, but they find themselves on a beach looking out at Lanka, and I forget how long exactly it is, but it's really, really long, where it is, do you know?
What, the bridge?
Yeah. No.
15 miles.
Okay, so it's 15
Lanka.
miles to Lanka. So they didn't have time. They couldn't just build a bridge when there's a demon army on the other shore. So all of the monkeys are there, the bears are there, and they're talking. And they kind of have an idea that Sita's probably over there because it looks magnificent. And they say, but who among us can make it over there? Like, yes, we're all gifted and talented, but how can we actually get over there? And all the monkeys and the bears, they're very like proud, a lot of egos. And they're like, one guy's like, I can do it. I can jump 5 miles. And another monkey's like, I can do 10. And then Angada, like he was the son of the king of the monkeys. And he says, well, I can do it. I can go 15 miles. And they're like, yes, but you're our king. Like, we can't lose you. Like, you're next in line. So finally, this guy, Jambavan, he says, everyone, like, shut up, be quiet. He's like, Hanuman, why are you being so quiet this whole time? And he's like, let me tell you who you are. And he's like, you are Lord Shiva incarnated. Like, you are the son of the god of the wind. Your mother was a god. Like, you are powerful beyond measure. You are more powerful than any of us. You have Brahma's boon. You're invincible. Because Hanuman was so powerful when he was a kid that he looked up and he saw a nice mango in the sky, and he jumped up to get the mango, and he ate the mango, and everything went dark. Everything became black because he thought that it was a mango, but it was the sun. So he swallowed the sun. And the gods were like, yeah, we can't have this guy like being this powerful. So they basically like whacked him down, and they cursed him that he can't remember who he is. So, you know, for the people who sing the Hanuman Chalisa, that's why you sing the Hanuman Chalisa. The Hanuman Chalisa.
I have it right there. Hanuman had the experiment over there. He threw the stone in the ocean and it went down. Then he threw the stone again. He said, Ram, throw the stone. And he was swimming.
That's
So he told all the monkeys, let's get on the ball and throw all the rocks.
not yet,
And
but
then
that's
we
very
go,
good.
okay.
Yeah, not yet,
Yeah.
but good point. Yeah, but so anyway, Hanuman, we say the Chalisa because we're reminding Hanuman who he is, and when he knows who he is, he can help us in ways beyond compare. So anyway, Hanuman's like, I can do this leap. You're right. I remember who I am, and he jumps over to Lanka, and he makes the jump, and he's the first being who's not a god or a demon to basically be over there. And while he's there, he transforms like very, very tiny into a very small monkey, and he goes looking everywhere for Sita. And you know, he's honestly amazed at the beauty of Lanka, because Lanka was a city that was created for the gods. So these weren't like demons in the way that you think. Like Ram Dass described Lanka as probably what you would think of as like New York City if it's really, really nice. Like they had every luxury. They were the kings of the world. It was so beautiful. Like the idea that somebody could destroy this city or someone could kill these guys was literally unthinkable, even to gods. So Hanuman's there. He's like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? This is looking really crazy. He's like, okay, let me just find Sita. So he focuses, he goes looking. He's being very, very sneaky. And eventually he finds Sita. And she's in this really beautiful garden that Ravana had. But he sees Sita getting tormented by these demons. And they're trying to scare her into loving Ravana. They're like, you could be queen of the world. Like Ravana's the most powerful man or the most powerful being alive today. If you just sleep with him, he'll make you his queen. Like you'll be the queen of the world and all these things. But Sita doesn't listen at all. It's like, no one compares to my Rama. She's in rags. She's soiled. She's crying. It's a whole scene. And Ravana would go like every day to try and get Sita. But Ravana also, he had this thing where he got cursed by a rishi a while ago, and it made it so that Ravana couldn't force himself on any woman. So that's also why all the women who were with him wanted to be there, because he was not allowed to force himself on anyone. So Sita was protected there. But at the same time, almost every woman in the world who had the opportunity to be with Ravana would have done it. And this is where Sita's chastity is really highlighted, like her faith, her everything towards Rama. Because more than anything, what defeated Ravana it wasn't Rama's ability, because frankly, like the scriptures would say that Ravana was more powerful. And all the gifts that Rama had, Ravana also had them for thousands of years longer. So what happened? And what happened is that Sita would not give in to Ravana. So for example, even when Hanuman found Sita and he said, Sita, like, this is me, and Sita didn't trust him because Ravana would play all these tricks. So she was, get away from me, you're trying to scare me, you're trying to get close to me. And Hanuman said, no, look, I have the ring. And he showed her the ring. She said, oh, wow, you truly are sent from my Rama. And Sita said, and Hanuman said to Sita, he said, yes, if you want, you can hop on my back and I can fly you back out of here right this second, like we can leave. And Sita said, no, because that wouldn't be the Dharma. She's like, I've been here, I've been suffering, I've been getting tortured for 11 months, and there must be some reason for it. So no, I don't want to just fly out of here on your back. Tell Rama to come and tell him to kill every demon on this island, and then that's how he's going to save me. Because she knew like what she was worth, and she knew that her suffering couldn't just be for nothing. She couldn't just go back to Rama. Rama, frankly, needed to fight for her. So Hanuman says, okay, noted, I'm going back. And Hanuman flies back. He tells Rama, we found Sita, we found all of it. So anyway, the whole army goes to the beach right before Lanka. And then there is that whole nother problem of they don't know how to get across 15 miles. And Hanuman's like, well, Rama, you can ride on my back, and Lakshman can too, but they need to find a way to get the whole army across. So Rama basically sits in a penance, and he sits praying to the ocean. He's like, help us find a way to cross, help us find a way across. And the ocean, whose name is Varuna, was basically not listening. And Rama's like, well, like, screw this. I'm going to destroy the whole ocean then. If I can't get to Sita, I'm going to dry up the whole ocean. And he starts shooting all these arrows and blowing everything up. And finally, Varuna, the ocean, comes to him. He says, Rama, like, I cannot interfere with manly affairs. Like, I can't. Like, I can't just separate so that you can come through. But I will grant you a gift that any rock that you put on top of me, I will let it stay. And I will let you and your army walk across safely and nothing will harm you. So boom, that piece is covered as well. So they go about, they build the whole bridge, and there's a lot of really beautiful side stories there, which I will not get into. And they finally get to Lanka. And basically the most amazing battle ever takes place. It's truly outrageous. Everyone's fighting with magic and with Maya and all of the above. But yeah, I want to highlight that Ravana, to his credit, he wasn't really in the battle with a clear head. Because here he is thinking he's the most virile man in the universe and he could have any woman who he wants. But his weakness is Sita. And Sita would not give in to him even when he promised her anything you could ever want. And it's not that she didn't just give in, she didn't even think about it for a second. Like, never, was fine getting tortured, whatever, because she was all about loving Ram. And because of that, Ravana was like, who the heck is this guy that this woman is choosing him over me? And it made him get angry, and it made him fight with ego, and it made him kind of lose his mind. So when he went into the battle, he wasn't fighting clearly. So he sent out his troops weird, everything was weird, and he didn't even show up to the battle until the very end, because he was hoping someone would just kill Ram for him. And there's so many beautiful stories, as I said, from the fighting of this whole thing. But eventually, as you already know, Ram wins the battle with Ravana, and it's this grand thing, and it's such a celebration, and Rama's gifted so much, and there were even demons. And the one point that's really interesting about that battle is that a lot of the demons, they kind of just surrendered. Like, they saw Ram, and they said getting killed by Ram felt good. And that brings up a point that I don't know, I definitely hadn't heard of it before this year, but a lot of people believe that Ravana knew that the reason that he left out humans and animals was because he wanted to give a way for God to come into human form to kill him. But why would he do that? Why would he allow that to happen? And it's because as the demon race, as the Rakshasas, they weren't allowed into the highest ranks of heaven. So when you wonder, like, why did Ravana sit in all of that penance, in all of that everything? There's some belief that Ravana was actually so smart and so intelligent that he knew that the only way that he could get to heaven is if he got killed by God. Because if you get killed by God, you go straight to heaven. That's just the rule. That's how it works. So anyway, there's that belief that Ravana kind of knew that this would all happen. So he allowed Ram to come. And not only did he save himself, but he had Ram come and he took Sita so that Ram would destroy the whole demon race, so that demons could be exiled from the world and that they could all ascend into the highest levels of heaven. And again, it just makes you think about the story in a bit of a different light, because the people who we think are the villains of the story, like KK's the villain, no, Ravana's the villain, or they're the villain, and it's like, they're not really the villain, like, not necessarily. It's just point of view. And if you're Ravana and you can't get into heaven any other way just because of who you are, it's like, well, then that's pretty freaking smart that he figured out a way to have God kill him so he could get to heaven. So it's very interesting. And this whole, they all get into this plane, which Grandpa used to talk about, the Vamana, the Pushpaka Vamana. And it was Kubera's, and it could fit everyone, so they all get into the plane, and they fly back, and they're very close to Ayodhya. They camp down, and Rama says, Hanuman, go to Bharat and see how he is. Like, tell Bharat that I've returned, and if there's even a tinge of disappointment or sadness in his face, I'm going to go back to the jungle and let my brother rule peacefully. He says, I don't want to impose, so I'll let my brother do his thing. But Hanuman goes, and he sees that Bharat is so grateful, is so happy that Ram's back. It's exactly on the 14th year, and the celebrations begin in the kingdom, and all of the lights are lit, and no expenses spared. Like, it's the biggest party you could ever imagine on Earth. And finally, Rama and his army and Vibhishana and all of the heroes from the war, they walk back into Ayodhya, and that day is Diwali. So that is the story.
Excellent. Jaden gets 100 out of 100 because I know the story, and he's absolutely right on everything.
So why do we do the Lakshmi Arti then on Diwali?
Prosperity.
But what does that have to do
So
with
when
the whole
Ram
story?
came back, so the kingdom was already doing well, but after Ram coming back, there was so much prosperity after. So he brought that prosperity with him. Everybody was celebrating. There were lights everywhere. There was, like he said.
So
no
if you go to
expense
India,
spared.
the whole country is lighted up, like literally lighted up.
On
You, even
Diwali.
when you fly on India, over India, you just see lights like you cannot imagine.
But also, Sita was Lakshmi. Like, she was an incarnation
right.
of Lakshmi on Earth.
Sita was Lakshmi on earth.
So
But
again,
she
it's,
didn't get that. She didn't get that honor, right? After
She
came
did.
back.
She did.
at the very end.
At the very
In the
end.
last book, she got the honor. Basically, Sita's death happened when a lot of people didn't believe that she was faithful to Rama.
Yes.
Right.
Because Sita was away for a year. So actually how the story ends is Rama has to banish Sita. Because as a king, even though he loved her more than anything, he fought for her, all of it. As a king, it was his dharma to be the example for his people. And if his people had any doubt about Sita being faithful, because they heard about the prowess of Ravana. So if they thought that she was unfaithful even for a second, Ram's duty as a king was to always uphold the dharma. So he actually had to send Sita out into an ashram in the jungle with Valmiki. And there, Sita ended up having twins.
Love and Kush.
Yeah.
With who? With whose baby?
No,
Ram's baby.
Ram's kids.
Ram's kids, Love and Kush.
But I thought she was banished.
She was pregnant when she was banished, and Ram knew she was pregnant.
Oh my God.
But then she gets banished, and then it's
like
very,
a soap opera.
it's the greatest love story of all time.
It's amazing.
But then, this is the cool thing,
Yeah.
is Ram's sons grow up in that ashram, and they grow up with the rishi, Valmiki. And Valmiki is the one who Brahma comes and gives the Ramayana to. So Valmiki is the one who composes the Ramayana, and the first two singers of the Ramayana are Ram's own sons, who he never met. So the whole story ends
So
when...
they never got back together again? He banished her?
Wait, just wait. Okay? I'm getting there.
Ahead of the story here.
Yeah.
I love this epilogue. Never heard this part before.
So, so then, Ram is nearing the end of his life, and he does this enormous sacrifice. It's a horse sacrifice. It's called the Ashwamedha Yagna. And everyone in attendance, like everyone in India goes to this sacrifice because Ram's holding it. And they say, like, poor men went there and they walked away as rich. Like, beggars went there, or sinners went there and they walked away as holy men. Like, that's how good the sacrifice was. So what happened was Valmiki shows up to this with Lava and Kush, and they start singing the Ramayana, and no one has ever heard it before. So everyone is so amazed, and they literally cannot believe that something this beautiful could even have been written. So as that's happening, Ram finds them, and he's offering them money. He's like, please take my money, like, sit here with me, like, whatever. And they're like, no, they refuse, because that's not why they went. And eventually, Sita shows up to the sacrifice, and Ram sees her, and they're still so in love. Like, even when Sita got exiled, this is again where she kind of shows her superiority, is she said, Lakshman, tell Rama that even though he exiled me, I'm going to be praying for him, and I'm going to be blessing him every single day, and I'm never going to not be faithful to him in my life. and that's what she did. So she shows up at the sacrifice, and she basically does this thing where she's like, if I have been faithful to my Rama for every single second, if I have not been unfaithful for even a single moment, then may Lakshmi herself come up from the earth and put me next to her and bring me down.
I'm like, go in ground.
Into the
Yeah,
ground.
into the earth.
Into
Like-
earth.
Like die.
So a throne ascends from the earth, like a lotus petal throne, and Lakshmi's sitting there, and there's a seat for Sita right next to her, and Sita goes and sits there, and the lotus closes, and Sita
And
goes
she
down into the
she's
ground.
gone.
And
Ram
she's
never
gone
gets her.
Ram's crying, he wants to destroy the earth and kill it, and he wants Sita back, and they're like, no, no,
And
no,
she said,
she's
"No."
gone.
You doubted me.
And then
You
they
doubted me. You'll never have me.
and they do reunite when they get to, they say when Ram finally did leave this earth, he went back as Vishnu, and when he was back as Vishnu, Lakshmi was waiting for him there. So in the grand scheme of things, it always works out. But Sita kind of was humiliated by what happened because people doubted her chastity, and then she had a chance to prove herself. And that's why they say, like, it turns out that, you know, Sita was really the one. Like, she's really the hero of this story. Because she just took so much and took and took and took and just was humble and blessed everyone and trusted in God and was just like, fine, that's the way it has to be. And her strength is, it's hard to imagine someone being that strong. So